everyone. Welcome back to another SHINEcast episode. I'll be your host for today. My name's Yesha.
And I'm your other host. My name's Maya.
And we have our guest, Bea, today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Today we'll be having our episode on self-love. And we're kind of doing it in collaboration with Self Lovin Hearts, which is a youth-led self-love advocacy nonprofit organization towards self-love advocacy. And we have one of our officers from our chapter at American Canyon High School, which is Bea. Yes. So we'll just be asking you a few questions. The first one was like kind of basic. I'm sure like a lot of people have gone through like struggles with self-love, but we kind of want to know like what were if you're comfortable sharing like your own struggles with self-love and like where do you think like they came from?
Definitely with self-love, I think it's like to stop, like I couldn't stop like comparing myself to others, especially like it was so easy. And I think it just came from like the fact like my parents, they like are very like on me with like being the best and like doing my best, and obviously like they're good for that, like they're my parents, but like yeah, I think that's kind of it. But yeah, definitely just like comparing myself and like telling myself that I'm doing my best, and like yeah.
Okay, yeah, because honestly like my parents are like the same, but like do you think that like your issues with self-love were more like about like your physical self, or like do you think it was more of like academics based, or like what do you think it was more like emphasized on?
Maybe just like academically wise, because I'm just like surrounded by so many people, like all my friends are so smart, and like I couldn't help myself but just like compare my scores to their scores.
I guess just one thing I would say is just like remembering that like everyone's journey is different. Your journey is different to like your goals, and also not everyone's goals is like the same. I think we talked about this in like our academics episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you have your own journey to your own path.
Kind of going off what Yesha said, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but kind of more specifically, where did you find that a lot of your self-love issues, where were they rooted? Like, did they come from just yourself, or were there any outside factors that really influenced them?
I know I said my parents, but like I wouldn't like mainly like base it off them. I think it's also like on my part, like I just like what I see is just like not what I'm like supposed to like do. Like I see my friends like excelling in like classes where I'm like struggling a lot, and then like things I should be doing, like people my age doing like all these things, like getting a job and like getting their license, like I should be doing that, like. But yeah, I think it's just like also myself, not only like just my parents.
Our next question is, to what extent did your struggles with self-love really affect you?
Definitely like I stopped doing things like for myself, like self-care. Like sometimes I would just like not get out of bed, like I just be like huddled and like watching TikToks all day, and kind of just like procrastinating on things that I should just be doing right away. And I guess that like led to my like problems being even worse. So like yeah,
I can really see that, because like I like how you mentioned like you just didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Because whenever I struggle academically personally, I just find I'm like way less productive when I start comparing myself to other people. It's like, well, if I can't do it like them, why should I do it in the first place?
Yeah, definitely. Like it like sets me in like such a bad mindset, and then it's like I don't know.
Because there's like also a lot of people who like for example, I'll use like other people as role models, but like to motivate me, but sometimes it can get too much. Like sometimes it'll end up going too deep into it, and I'll be like, oh my god, like I'll never be like her, or like that person.
Definitely.
But it's like I feel like I still sometimes like compare myself to other people, like what you said, but I think like once I started focusing more on like myself, I feel like I accomplished so much more because I just like wasn't thinking about like what other people were doing.
Yeah,
because that like really clouds like your mindset, like you're like, oh my gosh, I need to do everything to be like this person, or like and like even this applies like physically too, like like trying to work out to like look like somebody, or like a type of model or whatever. Like yeah, it's just like a really big struggle. Like did you feel like you were alone? Like did you feel like you could reach out to other people about it?
In some way, like kind of like both. Like I knew I could, like, because obviously my friends would be there for me and like I could talk to them, but at the same time it's like I would kind of be like a burden, like just like talking about my problems all the time, and then that would just bring them down. But yeah, like a lot of the time I did feel alone because I felt like I was the only person like feeling this way, and I didn't want to like talk to anyone about it and make them like feel the same way, you know.
Yeah.
I can really resonate with your point of making people a role model, especially not just people that you don't really know, but I found myself making role models of some of my closest friends, and that made it a lot worse in my situation because I was so close to them. I would consistently see them and consistently see their accomplishments, but it just really took me a long time on my journey with self-love to realize that I'm not that person and they're not my goals. I like how you said everyone's on their own journey, and it took me a really long time to understand that in my own situation.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I would like see my friends and then they'd be doing stuff, and then I'll be like, what am I doing wrong, or like what am I like not doing what they're doing, so like I could be like catching up to them. But I just like kind of remind myself like I need to go on my own pace.
Yes. I think a lot of the time like we forget that like we're not trying to like copy other people. Like that's just not like what we're made to do. Like we're our own person for a reason. And like everyone has their own goals for a reason, their own dreams for a reason, you know, like we all look differently for a reason, because, you know, no one can take away like the qualities that we have. Like that's something that like only we possess, you know. So we, like, how I think about it is just like we shouldn't try to be like this person that we're not, or like try to like be someone else, because the person you already are is like beautiful in itself, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, comparison is such a big thing. I feel like, especially like at our school, because we all go to same school.
Yeah, we all go to
And
ACHS.
so competitive. It's like, it's totally just like so damaging to like your mental health.
Yeah, in like every aspect too,
Oh,
like
yeah.
athletics, academics, extracurriculars, and I feel like it's like that in every school to its own extent. But it's just like at our school you can always feel the pressure of like you're always
Yes.
trying to be the best.
Yeah, I think it's just so important to remember that like you're you, and like no one can change that, and like you shouldn't like strive for something if you're not like passionate about it. Like I feel like a lot of people are just striving for like, for example, valedictorian, or like trying to be better than everyone, because it's like, I don't know, I guess creating like this whole new identity that they should be like the best, like at the top. But that's like so much more damaging to their mental health. Like I don't know. I did want to know your guys' opinions on like, because I know TikTok trends are like such a big like they affect like self-love issues a lot.
Definitely.
Like I was thinking about the term like it girl.
Oh,
like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
And,
Oh
or
my
like clean girl aesthetic.
Right.
It's
like I twitch like see so mad.
No, yeah, there's always like a trend that everyone like wants to go to. Like it used to be like visco girl, or like, and now it's just, now it's clean girl, and it's like I feel like there's always something that's like everyone's just trying to achieve to like be the same. And I feel like what you were saying, like being your own person is like way more better, because then you don't have to compare yourself to others and everything.
Yeah.
Kind of going off what you said, I know there's like those big trends. I think specifically what I'm thinking about is like style trends, like fashion trends.
That too.
So like clean girl, or like this sounds weird, but like not Stockholm syndrome.
Oh,
but,
yeah, I know you mean. I know. Yeah.
But Stockholm style. It's like I found myself when I was trying to find my like own style, I would try to go along those like trends, and it kind of like it affected me, because when I look around at people at school, like I'm like, why can't I wear those clothes and look like that? That was like a really big thing that I struggled with, is because like body wise, like everybody has a different body. I think Damien said that in a different episode, but it's just like that was a big outside factor that affected my own self-love, was seeing like these Pinterest girls that are like not the same body as me, but I think I can't wear that outfit because I don't look exactly like them.
Yes, like I really relate to that, especially like clean girls, like they have like the clearest skin ever. It's like when I do like a slick back, like you could see my whole hairline. Like
I honestly think my hairline is like receding.
no, mine has definitely receded, and it's just like why can't I like look the same as them, you know? Yeah.
That's funny, because I was just thinking about my hairline like yesterday, because I'm a swimmer, so I wear a swim cap every day, and I was like, I think my hairline actually went back.
Oh no.
Stop. I feel like that's me with like hairstyles. Like I be seeing people with like those cute like hair clip, like claw clip hairstyles, but like they don't hold up my hair. Like they'll go sideways and like
Oh, me
they'll
too.
start turning clockwise. Like
Yes.
what? So
Right.
it's okay to like follow trends, but I think also being like mindful at the same time, like again, like not comparing yourself to like those people that have like the ideal body, or like you think, oh, like, oh my gosh, she's like the it girl, like she has it all. Because like I was thinking about this, like no one really posts like what they look like in the morning, or like I know we have Be Real, but like
are we really
like,
being real?
yeah, like, are we
We're
really
not being
posting on
real.
time, like because I don't know if there's adults watching this. Be Real is like an app where you like a timer will go off and you will have 2 minutes to take a picture,
and you have to be real about what you're doing in the moment.
But like you can still take pictures after that. So it's like
you don't have to be real if you don't want to.
Right.
Yeah, like people, if it goes off in the morning, for example, like I'm not gonna post myself like fresh out of bed, like I'm just not going to, like. But that's the same for other people too. Like they don't, like, you don't see other people like when they're at their worst, or like when they look like, you know, like, because sometimes I'll be like, oh my god, I bet she looks so good when she wakes up in the morning, or like I wish I could look that good when I wake up in the morning. But like you don't really know that. Like even if like people are making TikToks and they like they're like just woke up, like you don't know that they went and put like, you know, something. But like I'm not saying everyone did that.
Yeah.
But
it's like, yeah, realizing that like Instagram and TikTok, like most social media is gonna be like, the whole point is showing your curated life in like photos. That's the entire point of social media. And it's gonna be like the exception when somebody is showing their full truth. And that's like realizing on your own journey, if you're struggling with that. It's like realizing that social media is made to only show the best.
Yeah. I like that. I want to know, like, what piece of advice would you give to people who are like struggling with self-love, like, or what would you tell yourself like back then when you were really struggling with it?
It's kind of like off what I said before, like just like going at your own pace and not like thinking about like something you could do better for others but for yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I actually have a question for both of you, because you're the founder of Self Lovin Hearts, and you're the officer of our branch at American Canyon High School, and I'm a member. With your journey on self-love and kind of creating Self Lovin Hearts, and your journey as an officer, what have you found like within Self Lovin Hearts, the organization, that really helped you on your self-love journey?
Oh, I like that question. I like that. I think while I was like typing up ideas on it, like I remember I had like this whole Google Doc of like everything, the mission and everything. But when I actually like carried it out and we did like our first activities, like we implemented it at ACHS. When we first like carried it out, like I didn't think that much people would show up, and it was only like the first meeting or something, and there were times that not as much people showed up, but it was like, I remember we did a Google form, and it was like just asking the members questions like, how has like our organization helped you, and like yet I like was reading all their responses, and they're just like, it helped me like recognize my self-worth, and like it gave me a safe space, and just things like that, I think made me realize like, wow, like I don't know, it just like made me so happy. And like I also had like private messages from people saying like your nonprofit is like really helping me right now, and I don't know, that made me want to cry, because I was like, I feel like I would have loved something like that if I, like when I was struggling with these kind of issues, especially in middle school. And I think it just like, as I was kind of like giving these like advice to people, like I realized I started implementing it in my own life. And I feel like even though I have like a really like big workload, and like I'm really busy lately, I feel like I've still been able to find time to take care of myself, and I've been so much more like mentally happier and content with myself. Like there's still times I'll maybe like compare myself a little bit, or like, but I feel like it's not as severe as it was before.
It's kind of like how teachers say like, if you can't teach it, you don't fully understand it. It's like, I kind of see in you that like when you started teaching people how, like not just teaching people, but just like giving people resources, is when you started to like find self-love in yourself. And I know like even just with your social media, with you guys posting like daily like little quotes or like mental health reminders, I was like, oh, I felt better scrolling through Instagram
Aw.
every day. And it like kind of gave me a reason to like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be on my phone. Maybe I should do something that makes me feel better about myself. I know I really enjoyed your guys' Instagram.
Oh my god.
No, yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you.
When I was like becoming an officer, when I saw the officer applications coming out the first time, like you guys, like Yesha just started the club, I was like really struggling with my self-love at that point in time, and I was like, dang, like I don't know like whether I should like do this or not, because I don't know if I'm like capable. But once we started like sending out like reminders every Monday about like affirmations, I started like telling myself that too. And it kind of just like really improved my mental health just by like the small things, like giving our members like little affirmation cards and seeing them like be really happy about it, or doing activities during club meetings. And it's just like, I don't know, it like really like improved my mental state.
Oh my god. I don't know. I just love hearing that. Like, honestly, there wasn't any like, when those applications were released, I wasn't like, you have to love yourself, or like, you know, it's like there's no like rules. Like, I love that like you came into it like honestly, and that like I think it's courageous in itself, just like sharing your story, because like you said, like you felt alone. I'm sure there were like so many other people who like felt alone like with their, you know, issues with self-love. Like this, like, you know, like organization is just to kind of like provide as a reminder, like, hey, you're not alone, you know. And like I'm just like so happy that you've been here to like contribute to that. And so, you know, thank you for sharing your story. It just like
Thank you for
Thank-
coming on.
Thank you guys. It
Yes.
was such a good opportunity to like just like say all this. Like it feels so nice.
So thank you again for coming and talking with us about self-love, and we're so happy that you shared your experience with us.
No problem.
Next, we're going to be going to our guest section, and who are we going to hear from, Yesha?
And we're going to be hearing from Mentis therapist Jessica Musgrove Ortiz, and we're just so excited to see her input and what she has to say about self-love.
So we'll see you guys on the next segment.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the second segment of this episode. We're here with our adult guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. And thank you again for having me on this episode. My name is Jessica Musgrove Ortiz, and I'm a mental health therapist with Mentis here in Napa, California.
Yeah, we're just so glad to have you. We've been just talking about like social media trends, its impact on like self-love issues, because it's like such a big thing in youth and just like people of all ages. And we kind of just wanted to know, like, how often do you see like students or your clients deal with self-love, and what coping strategies or like skills do you give them?
That's a really good question, and I see it as one of the most common challenges people come into the therapy room with. Self-love is such a journey and it takes so much work, but one of the things I recommend to all my clients is first getting to know yourself. So journaling practices. Journaling is a way that you can actually have a conversation with yourself, and you can develop a relationship with yourself, and then with that you can learn, you know, what your interests are, what are your passions, who are you as a person, and that in itself can cultivate that self-love. Another thing I always recommend is changing your inner dialogue, so positive affirmations, learning how to speak kindly to yourself. It's a huge it has huge impacts on self-love.
I totally agree. Like, there will be times where like I'll make a mistake, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid, or like I'll just like talk down on myself. I think a lot of people kind of just forget that like we are human, and we kind of have this like need or like this want to be like perfect, just because of like societal beauty standards, which are like so unrealistic, and we just like always feel the need to like conform to those standards. So I really like the advice that like you kind of gave about that, like the need to know more about yourself. I feel like sometimes we just need to know like what our interests, our likes, like how do we take care of ourselves, because it kind of just gives you like more in depth of like, wow, like the person I am is actually like really beautiful, you know. I wanted to know your stance on like where do you think like most issues from self-love come from, and like why do you think like those issues come from like where they are?
Yeah, and I feel like that's such a complex question
Yeah.
because there's so many contributing factors. Like you mentioned, all of the beauty standards. I think even back when I was in high school, we didn't have TikTok. Instagram was barely becoming a thing. But you still had those societal beauty standards that were always impossible to reach. And it's almost on an unconscious level that we're trying to be perfect. So I would say, media, of course. I would say even just being introduced to trends in the school with your peers, it's really hard not to compare ourselves. Even though comparison is the thief of joy, we can't compare ourselves to everyone else, especially when we're all unique and have something original to offer. I think another thing that can contribute is invalidating environments. So not feeling like you're good enough. And that can come from home, that can come from school, that can come from just wanting to always excel and achieve. And again, just that idea of you have to be perfect, when in reality, we don't have to be perfect. We're always worthy of love and acceptance, regardless of what we're doing.
I love that. I feel like, especially in validating environments, I think we were talking about this kind of like earlier. Like, I think our other guest was kind of talking about like her parents were like a big factor in like her issues with self-love, and just like striving for like academic excellence, and like that has a big toll on it too. I noticed just like a lot of people like at my school, because like we were talking about how our class is like really competitive, and so it kind of makes you easy to like compare yourself to them, and because like I feel like so many people are just like, I feel like comparison is like a really big thing in our like community, or just like what we've seen like at our school. Like, what kind of like advice would you give to people who are like constantly like comparing themselves to like other people?
Yeah, that's again a really good question, because I think that's something as humans that we all do, and we can all catch ourselves doing at one point in our life, whether it's in person, social media. With social media, we're constantly comparing our insides to people's outsides because of highlights, reels, things people want to show everyone. And I would say, just in general, when it comes to comparison, because again, that's a really hard thing to overcome sometimes, because again, our thoughts are very overwhelming sometimes and very consuming. So I would say, if you're falling into the trap of comparison, really try and practice just catching that with awareness. I'm really big on mindfulness practices, because mindfulness is kind of like exercise for your brain. You're able to take a step back away from your thoughts and just acknowledge, hey, I notice I'm comparing myself, and I think maybe I need to do some self-care right now instead of giving these thoughts energy.
I really love that. I feel like before too, like even I used to struggle with that, kind of just like always striving for like perfection, or like, oh, I have to get this done or else like I'll feel bad about myself, or like just like not knowing when I should rest, even when like my body was like obviously telling me to. And I feel like lately though, I've been incorporating more of like the advice that you were just saying, like knowing when to rest. I noticed that I've been like so much more like mentally happier, and just like happier with myself, that I can still do the things I need to do, but like knowing there's a time and place for everything, including like rest for yourself.
I actually have a question about mindfulness. What kind of specific mindfulness practices would you recommend for somebody kind of just learning how to be more mindful in their life?
Yeah, I love that question, because whenever I introduce mindfulness, I think a lot of times people think of the crisscross applesauce, and I always hear, oh, it's the point of not having any thoughts. Mindfulness is just the practice of being with yourself in the present moment and not trying to change anything. And you can do that in many different ways. That's why I love mindfulness. So that can be, you can do art mindfully. Like if you like drawing, painting, whatever it is, if you're fully focused on that one thing, that's being mindful. There's mindfulness movement if you like to dance, if you like to do any type of flow art. So I hula hoop as an adult. That's my form of mindfulness practice. Another thing that I really love about technology is on YouTube, Netflix, Spotify, there's always guided meditations as well too. So if someone wanted to do a sit down meditation practice, they have resources out there for free, and they will guide you of how to do it.
Kind of going further on that question, what does mindfulness mean to you? Because I know that you said you like to hula hoop as a way to be mindful. So what does being mindful mean to you personally?
Of course, mindfulness to me, it's just being in the present moment. So I'm not worried about what's happening tomorrow, the next hour. I'm not ruminating on what happened yesterday. I'm just fully enjoying myself in the present moment. So I would say that's what mindfulness means to me.
I love that.
I actually wanted to start like incorporating some of your pieces of advice too, because I have been like feel like mentally happier, but yeah, I just really love like the stuff you said about mindfulness, because a lot of people like, especially at my school, like they think of it as like, it's so boring.
Like you have to be like Zen,
Yeah.
or like you have to like be able to meditate for an hour. Like I don't think that's what mindfulness has to be for everybody.
No, not at all. And to be doing a meditation for an hour, that's probably at an expert level too. And I can't even do that. That's really hard to do. But yeah, it can be whatever works for you. And that's why I like presenting mindfulness in that way, because again, everyone's different. Everyone has their approach that works for them. So it's all about finding what type of mindfulness and self-care works for you, so you can do it on a consistent basis. Because that way you're watering yourself. You're making sure that you're taking care of yourself, so you can keep on doing what you need to do, especially as students. I always say student life is a really hard life, because you're bombarded with work. You have to think constantly about the future. You have your social life. You have a lot of stuff going on.
I like just really love how you said like mindfulness is different for everybody, because it kind of made me like realize that my everyday activities, like I go to my like sport practice, or like I kind of just sit down and just like lay down in my bed and just kind of look at the roof. Like I just realized that that's kind of my mindfulness practice in a way, where I'm just like kind of in the moment with myself, just reflecting on my day, or just reflecting on how I feel in the moment. Like I really didn't realize that you might be implementing mindfulness even if you don't know it.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like mindfulness practice. And another thing, a key thing about mindfulness is you're doing whatever it is you're doing in a non-judgmental way. So it's just a way, again, it revolves around self-love. You're sitting in whatever it is you're sitting in, whatever feelings are there, and you're just noticing them and you're accepting them, which is, again, tied into self-love too.
I did have another question though. Like I wanted to know if you're comfortable sharing like what issues you've had with self-love personally, and like how have you like dealt with them?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And I'm definitely comfortable sharing. I would say my self-love journey has been a very long one. Growing up, I did experience some bullying, and I think that really impacted my self-esteem. And then, like we just said, student life, being in high school, just a lot happens in high school. And I feel like, again, you get trapped in the comparison of other people, of the media. And also, when I was a student in high school, I also wanted to excel and achieve. So I definitely did have that perfectionistic tendencies to always strive to be perfect. But of course, that's an unrealistic standard that you just never meet. So it's always met with just being hard on yourself when you don't meet these standards that are impossible to reach. And I would say throughout my early 20s, mid 20s, I definitely struggled with accepting myself, and I always had the desire to try and fit in and be accepted. And it wasn't until my mid-20s I went and attended my own therapy, and I was also learning to become a therapist. I was able to practice, all of these interventions that I now teach to my clients, which is kind of cool. It's kind of full circle. I'm teaching my clients and just my friends of how important self-love is. And I would say, during the pandemic, when, everyone's kind of shut in, one thing that really helped me was doing something I really enjoyed. So again, going back to hula hooping, I learned that skill during the pandemic just because I had a lot of time. And it was something I always was drawn to. It looked fun. And I feel like when we, again, explore our interest and hobbies, and when we see ourselves progress in something that we really enjoy doing, it builds confidence. And, the more you align with yourself with people that you get along with, your passions, your interest, I feel like you find some sort of peace within you. And now I can happily say, like, I'm at a place where I do love myself and accept myself, and it's such a nice feeling. So I always encourage anyone to just, trust their gut and just do things that they love, surround people who support them genuinely, because that makes a huge difference too.
I was gonna say, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your story. That alone like takes a lot of courage. So yeah, we just thank you for that. I think there's probably people that needed to hear that. Because when I was going through these issues, like I also thought that I was alone, and I felt like it was stupid for me to like even reach out to people about it, like even my sister, and to me she's like my bestie. And I tell her like everything, and that was like the one thing I didn't tell her, and it was like, this was like in 8th grade. I'm a junior now. And yeah, there are definitely still like issues with self-love that I go through sometimes, but it's not as bad as it used to be. Like I can say like what you said, like that I'm at a place where I love myself, and I'm just really glad that like I ended up being vulnerable about it, because I did eventually tell my sister about it, and it turns out that she was kind of going through the same struggles. Like she was also struggling to like fit in at school, and I was like, you should have told me. And she was just like, I don't know, like I thought like I was the only one going through it. Like she also thought it was stupid. So it was like, we're never really alone.
Yeah.
And I just like all the pieces of advice that you have been giving, that like people probably needed to hear that today. So yeah,
I feel like it even takes just a certain amount of self-love to be vulnerable about your own struggles. Like how you said before you were vulnerable, you kind of felt like stupid, or you felt like it's not worthy for you to tell somebody. It just takes an amount of strength inside you and self-love to bring it up with anybody. And that's just like a whole journey in itself, is to getting to the starting point of healing yourself. I really love all the advice that you're giving. It's really empowering, and I feel like my heart feels good right now.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. That makes me happy, because this is such an important topic, and I feel like, again, it's taking up space is important. Like you said, in every single aspect, we're allowed to take up space, especially when it comes to friends and people who genuinely care about us. Like you said, I think, again, it's a common theme to want to be liked by everyone, especially when you enter high school. Going from middle school to high school is such an awkward time period in everyone's lives, I feel like. And it's normal to want to be liked. We have that, that ego-driven side to us as human. But again, when we try so hard to fit in with a group of people that don't share the same values as us and don't really align with our life, it feels more isolating than empowering. And again, I feel like the more that we are true to ourselves, the more our true friends kind of find us along the way.
Yeah.
Like it takes self-love to like decide that maybe you aren't right in this big friend group, that maybe you need to cut down to the few people that you really love and they really care about you. I think those are all the questions we have for you. Do you have anything else, Yesha?
No, I don't. I just really want to thank you for like, this was also like a learning experience for me, and just like reminders for me to implement like those kind of actions into my life.
I really loved every piece of advice you had for us.
Good.
It was really amazing to talk to you.
I'm happy I was able to contribute. And again, thank you so much for inviting me on this important discussion of this topic.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for being courageous and vulnerable and sharing your story. And yeah, we would love to totally see you in the near future. So.
Yeah, I'd be happy to come back.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening to our podcast today about self-love, and we'll see you guys in our next episode. Bye.